Leave this in, Wiser.
Oh, quieter for the you have to open your mouth, I think, for the EMDR or the ASMR. You know what the question of the day is? What are the simple things that we haven't talked about in so long that are those things that make a cafe tight because they've been around for so long and we have so many awesome new people, but they haven't heard from our mouths like some of the things that we put into play from the very beginning that were kind of upgrades from every other job place we've worked at.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? Like
eating an apple a day.
Yeah, start off with eating an apple a day, drinking enough water, and taking your sleep seriously. No, but it was interesting. I'm thinking about it a lot just because in like the most positive way, if you've been following us, we had such an evolution from the beginning to the more so through the middle of the pandemic, and then through the pandemic, we hired a bunch of new people. So effectively, approximately half of our staff have never done indoor service fully, so a lot of them still haven't even served in ceramic. Great. They might not know how much intention we put into, even down to like the gear we picked and why. And I don't think a lot of our listeners maybe have heard that in such a long time that it might be a cool refresh.
I'm down
to talk about, you know?
Let's get into it. It's a weird arc of a business when you have people open a store and you're really passionate about the thing you do.
Yeah.
Super passionate about the thing you do. Then over time, because your job is to look up and out as an owner and not only look down and in, you get a little bit more removed from the thing that you did originally.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that gets passed on to other people. But there's always this gap between, okay, I've been doing this for 20 years, and you're showing a ton of promise and are actually doing really well, but you've only been doing it for a year and a half.
Right.
Or in our case, now we have some people who came on during the pandemic
Sure.
who have only been
Less
doing
than
it for
6 months.
half of
Yeah.
a year.
Sure.
There's no way you could know, no matter how much we write in books or training, protocols or whatever, there's just some stuff that needs to be talked about.
Right. Well, and I mean, and it's literally no hate, but it's fun and funny to have a pretty young leadership team with so much energy and excitement, and they do a lot of totally rightfully so and understandable, but they go through explaining like the details of what's happening, how it's happening makes sense, but like the ramifications of certain things, and oftentimes in the back of my head I'm all, I totally know what you're talking about. Like we've seen this like 20, 30 times, and you're walking through something that's super real for you and maybe relatively fresh, but we've had to walk through this so many times through our career that totally get what you're saying, totally know 20, 30 different ways we can go about approaching your position or your, even our executive meetings, there's a lot of good explanations, and I'm actually happy to sit through it, and because it's great processing for the other, right? But at the same time, the explanation is, well, I totally know. Like, it's okay. I totally get it. Like, a lot of time they're covering their own tracks. They're like, look, I tried this and I tried that. And I'm all, dog, I get it. Like, we have been here before. And that's something that you're right. Like, as you step farther away, it's easier for people to forget that you have also had to do the same exact things as everybody who's worked for you. Even if we've evolved it, hopefully, to be easier and better than it ever was for us, we've had to walk through. I haven't experienced a new situation with a team except for like the pandemic and some of those things that are totally out of the box. But every single situation I've heard come up is some sort of just slight offshoot of something we've gone through before.
Yeah,
right. I mean, nothing's like new.
The situations that people find, the challenges don't really change that much.
They don't.
In terms of what is going on in a cafe,
right?
You have a matrix of things, right? There's a certain job to do, which doesn't change very much. And then we have our individual tweaks on how to do that job to a certain level. You have certain challenges, whether that's training new employees or new hire onboarding or whatever, that doesn't change that much, even though the people do. So like the nuance changes all the time, but the set of fixed problems that accompany running a cafe don't really change that much.
No, I think the only way to consistently make new challenges is to do new and exciting and challenging things with your company. And even so, most of the time at that point, we'll have walked through, like, for instance, like a roastery expansion. Should we do that? We have walked through just like one off of physically doing it, like the whole process. We've seen it. We've seen the builds. We've seen the equipment bought, and we can see what worked and what didn't between you, myself, and Charles. We've seen, I mean, even down to the financials of what it's cost to build those things. And so you're absolutely right. Like, it's all a replication, even though it's a slight one-off and nuance of the same thing. So it's, anyway, I kind of wanted to talk about that because how well you run an experience that people physically come into, I mean, first starts with leadership and how well they can deliver a mission and values. But then there's the simple details that can feel absolutely complex if you essentially leave them untouched or leave them without intention, i.e. like, well, the place is always clean, so that's what we do. It's clean here. It's always showroom ready. And then if you don't have the mindset of the person who said showroom ready and what that means or doesn't mean, you come in and your showroom might be not even close to the same show. Your showroom might be like the antique store that you fell in love with that's like looks like a pack rat. You know what I'm saying? And you might love that. There's literally nothing wrong with that. But without those explanations and the intention behind what you mean, it's actually really it's a fascinating idea for me to walk through.
There's so many different levels. So, and I just want to go back and mention one thing.
Yeah.
When we talked about stepping away, and because this is a perspective that a lot of people have where they don't understand what the owner's doing. We're stepping away from the things we used to do, but we're stepping in to new and exciting things that's going to move the whole organization forward.
Absolutely.
And I just want to touch on that because last week we talked about that us versus them mentality. So people can get in that mindset of, oh, well, what is it? Why do you have to step away? What else are you doing? And in time, everyone will see the benefit that comes with us being able to look up and out and not only down and in, like I said before.
Absolutely.
I have the perfect example for what you're talking about in terms of reopening the cafe, attention to detail, and where, you know, good intention meets maybe a lack of knowledge or experience in that zone. So we've only been doing to-go service. Now we have people inside the cafes. You can sit down, you can hang out. There's chairs there. But for the most part, at most of our cafes, we're still on paper cups.
Yeah.
Right? So espresso in a paper cup, coffee to go in a paper cup. And every once in a while, for a treat, if there's not a lot of people in there early in the morning, you go in and the barista's like, do you want your espresso in a ceramic cup?
Yeah.
You know, just for the staff. So here's where 3 or 4 things just kind of come into play. One, I'm like, okay, cool. You're going to have it for here? You want it ceramic? I'm like, yeah, I would fucking love it. It's one of my favorite experiences ever.
Coffee in a ceramic, baby.
Coffee in a ceramic. So shot comes, slide it across the counter. I grab it.
No
cup's
spoon.
just bone cold.
Oh, cold.
Like bone cold. And I'm like, ooh, it just doesn't feel good to touch a bone cold cup.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it needs to be warm. It needs to be, and this is going to sound crazy, like the inside of the cup, this is my preheat theory. The inside of the vessel needs to be as warm as the coffee that goes into it.
Right.
The outside of the vessel needs to feel warm to the touch, but not hot.
Right. You don't want to burn your lips on it.
You need to be able to put it on your lip and not have it have any sting at all.
Yeah.
But it needs to feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And a bone cold cup doesn't feel comfortable. And I was like, oh, man, like in that, and then because the cup was so cold,
right,
and there's so much mass, it sucks a lot of heat out of the espresso.
Oh, yeah.
So it's almost like I would kind of rather have a appropriately temperatured espresso in a paper cup.
Right, because it'll retain more heat in a paper cup if it's going to be cold.
It just feels weird. It just felt weird. Yeah. So there's that aspect of it. There's the awareness of doing something nice for someone on staff and versus what regular guests get.
If they see it, yeah.
Right. So everyone's trying to do a favor. You know, you want to do the owner a favor. You want to do your teammates a favor. Not realizing that, like, oh, I'm trying to give you good service. But if a guest comes in and sees some dude who they don't know works here or anything, it's like, why does that person get to drink coffee in a ceramic cup and I can't?
Sure.
So then you've got, a service. I don't want to call it fail, but
no, because I mean, this isn't clearly stated from us yet,
but there's all these tiny little things. Yeah, the spoon thing is one of them.
Yeah, oftentimes there's no spoons, and again, this comes down to us running out of things, and then the pandemic. Like, we're waiting to get some gear back, and we're not serving it anyway.
But there's a million of those little things that add up to make the experience overall awesome. So what's on the top of your mind? Like, what have you been seeing lately?
Okay. I want to piggyback off of your idea of a guest seeing another guest who might not know that you're the owner. Doesn't really matter who that person is, getting a different service or a better service. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, let's start with something that you and I have always had a pet peeve of, and that is the idea of the person at the concierge, register, reg op, whatever your place, cashier, they are taking money from people. And they, hopefully, at least in a place like ours, are giving amazing, authentic, connective, genuine hospitality. Genuine hospitality.
Genuine
Have you ever had that?
hospitality.
Genuine hospitality. The people we bring in are supposed to connect with each and every guest. But if you spend 5 minutes with one guest at the expense of the 20 behind you because you enjoy them more, or if you are maybe just a little bit unaware that people waiting in line feel uncomfortable, they don't like waiting. So number one, are you giving quick, inappropriate service, noticing that the person in the back of the line is getting service at the same time as the front? Just because they're not physically standing there talking to you does not mean, like, once they enter the door, they are being served by us, the company. Mm-hmm. So that's one reason we don't actually do physical pour-overs in our cafe, because it requires somebody to pull away from giving service to a group of people, and it slows down that whole flow. So I was just kind of piggybacking off of that feeling of, especially we call it clubhousing in a way where
that's a different version of clubhousing.
It's like a subsector of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the standard clubhousing generally refers to people behind the counter interacting with each other and not guests.
The real us versus them.
So the guests feel completely left out of what's going on. They're like, oh, I guess this place is all about the people that are behind the counter.
They're cool.
Me.
I'm not.
I'm just a dork.
So this is like a subsector of that, because what it could be is it's clubhousing with the guests that you enjoy more than the guests that you haven't learned or gotten to know as well yet. Mm-hmm. And while it's absolutely fair to have connections with certain guests more than others, it's not fair to treat them better than anybody else in your cafe, especially when the whole cafe's life is determined upon how many people come in. Your job, our company is determined by how the experience is for every single person who walks through that door. So trying to give an even experience and a consistent experience is a real kind of a gift and an intention that's put into the whole experience.
Oh, it's one of the things that allows you to take whatever special thing you have and channel it into the work that you do every day, because there's so many levels to just that one situation.
Right.
And I think we talked about this before, but I connected with one of our employees, and she was watching my videos, and she was like, man, you got so much energy in the videos, but I don't really see it in regular life. You know, you're in line, you get your order, and you go. And we had this conversation. It's like, when I'm in line and I get to the front of the register, the employees tend to want to talk to me a lot, which I get.
Totally.
I own the company, they want to connect, and that's awesome. But I also feel the weight of the whole line going out the door behind me.
Absolutely.
And my highest service to the whole organization is to be cordial, but to get out of all the other guests' ways as soon as possible. And sometimes that means being a little bit short, even though I don't feel like I'm getting short. It's probably just looks short in contrast to some of the other stuff they might see that I, put out there in the world. And she was like, oh, I totally get that. That totally makes sense. So you've got that awareness of speed. Pacing is really important. Mm-hmm. It's not just the energy or the friendliness. If you spend 5 minutes with one guest and 30 seconds with another, that's a different form of clubhousing in its own.
How annoying is it to be the 30-second after the 5 minute?
Well, it's just annoying. It's annoying to be the 30-second watching the 5 minute.
Exactly.
I'm just like, whoa, move it along, especially when you can hear the conversation.
Yeah, and it's just lingering.
It's just lingering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the cool thing about moving people through is there's an intensity to it. You can do it in a fun and playful way, where it's not like, okay, I'm sorry, I have to help the next person in line. You can just kick them out like, dude, that's awesome. Cool. Next, what?
Yeah.
You can use your energy to make it happen in a fun way.
So fun.
Where I always say, if I'm on the other side of that, I would rather leave wanting more, leave the guest wanting more, rather than being in some drawn out conversation that gets to be incredibly awkward and mundane.
Oh, I totally am with you with that self-conscious vibe.
Make it spicy.
Yeah.
Make it exciting. And then because your job is the same every day, back to, using your gifts or whatever, you have a job to do. People are coming in, your function is setting the tone for that experience, ringing them up, making it accurate, making it memorable, and then pushing them out as quickly as possible.
Right.
But within that, where you get to play is that every single person is different. So giving good service to one person, if you have someone who's insanely high energy and needs to be responded to with high energy, you can do that. If you have someone who, you have to use your brain on this one, but if they look like they're having the worst fucking day of their life, and they don't really want someone to scream happiness into their face, like, you can connect with them on the level that they're at. Like, meeting people where they're at while still maintaining this good energy vibe is fucking awesome. And you can't do that with copy and paste service.
No.
You can't do that with, hello, welcome to Cat and Cloud. What could I get for you today? Oh, nice. Would you like to add a shot to that?
Right.
Thank you very much.
It's like your classic, greeting, take order, try up sale, see you later.
Yeah.
Maybe repeat order back.
Maybe repeat order
say
back.
Goodbye.
Yeah, and then everybody needs something different within that. And if you can figure that out, that's what makes a great
So believe
service
it
person.
or not, we actually have intention in our steps to service that allow a couple spaces for genuine conversation without extending the time at the register cashier concierge experience. So there is a time when you're asking between for here and to go, where you are potentially grabbing drinks and or items for the human being, where you can be talking to them. Then there's one other portion, which is right when you tell them how much the order is going to cost. They have to either reach into their wallet or they have to do something. They have to hand you cash, or and that is your opportunity to engage in a short conversation. And both of those places allow you to do exactly what we're talking about without holding up anybody behind. And the transaction can be done without it being transactional. And I think that's the thing where it takes a little bit of art and a little bit of, you said, brain work, but there's a lot of fun ways to do this. And you have to kind of remember that you're not cutting off a guest is not a disservice from us. We wouldn't consider it a disservice. It's more of a service to the people behind that guest. And then there's other ways around this. If you have somebody who has a lot of questions, you can always hopefully have backup from your baristas or the other people who are in the cafe working behind you or alongside of you to reach out and get some things going down the line, which is where teamwork comes into play. So simplest thing, in our steps to service, we build it so that they're repeatable, but they're also fairly quick. They deliver the accuracy, which, this is kind of a no-brainer. I think everybody's got this, but they make sure, hopefully, that you have the accuracy of the modifiers, what kind of cup the drink comes in, and all of those things, the name of the person, which that's pretty old school, but at the same time, we were kind of towards the beginning of creating that in the past. Some people like the names and some people don't, but in the past, names weren't a normal thing in coffee. And I believe, I'm not going to fully claim it because the internet didn't exist then, so other people were doing it. But at the time, I didn't know any other place that was calling names. And I did know that we were giving out the same drink 10 times in a row because that people would steal drinks and change drinks all the time. Steal's the wrong word. Grab the wrong drink because they heard a name of a drink called.
Yeah, that's one of those things where Starbucks was probably on the forefront.
They probably had to be the first, right?
As far as I can remember, they've always called names.
Yeah.
But Third Wave Coffee definitely didn't call names.
No.
Yeah, you would sit there, put something out, latte, as if fucking 15 other people didn't order a latte.
16-ounce latte to go.
Latte to go.
Non-fat latte, low fat.
And then you wait long enough, and then the barista gets angry. Latte!
Yeah. It's cold!
Yeah, remember when that used to happen? There's an espresso getting dying cold on the bar. It's dying.
If you say that now, get over yourself, please. Wow, where was we going? We just really sidebarred. All that to say, names. We have a system. You can engage. That's one thing. It's a really simple thing to put a little extra time into and to standardize between your team and teach them why you're doing it.
Well, the reality is when you do things like read the order back to the person. When you call out the name, you're making it easier and more comfortable for them.
Right.
How awkward is it to walk up to the bar, grab a latte because you ordered a latte, you put your hand on it, and then the barista goes, "That's not yours." You're like, oh, how the fuck am I supposed to know?
Yours is next.
Yours is next.
Well, what was
we
your
got
name?
a few in front of you. It's like, cool. If you just said Jared's latte, that would be way tighter. Order for Jared. Like, it's annoying. And when you read someone's order back to them, they feel confident. It's like, okay, cool. I have to have decaf because when I order decaf for my mom and she's got a condition, like she can't have X amount of caffeine.
She's got a condition.
So if I order a decaf Americano for my mom and then they call it out in the bar, "Chris, here's your Americano." And I'm like, is it decaf?
Right.
You know? So you can call it out at the register. Okay, cool. I got an espresso, an 8-ounce decaf Americano, and a ham and cheese croissant. Great. Awesome.
Done.
And then call it out again when you put it on the bar.
Right.
Things with unique modifiers. Chris, your order's ready. Okay. Here's your espresso. This is your decaf Americano.
Right.
You know, reinforcing at every level that, yes, I have taken care of you. Yes, I have the correct order. You don't need to worry. You can relax. We got this under control.
It's super good. I mean, that's one of my favorite responses is people come up and goes, "Is this a hot latte?" And I'm like, "That is a hot latte for Jared. If you're Jared, that's your latte." Yep. And they'll be like, "Oh no, I'm Chris." Be like, "Cool. Yours is 2 more down the line. I have 1 more latte between you and yours. It'll come out in probably 3 minutes." What to say to do? It's done.
Yeah. I love what you said right there. It'll come out in 3 minutes.
Right.
Because that's another level of comfort where that's not yours. Yours is coming. Or that's not yours.
Yeah,
There's a few in front of you. You know, just like some sort of specificity to let you know, like, okay, we got 2, and then you're going to be the next after that, so don't go too far.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, cool, I'll chill here. Or like, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's super slam busy. It'll probably be like 6 minutes. Okay, cool, I'm going to go hang out with my table, and then we'll reach out to you.
Cashiers, concierges, this is your opportunity as well. If you're at a register and there is a line out the door, and there's been a line out the door, and your baristas are slammed, or the food is slammed, whatever's slammed, you can be like, "Hey, just so you know, we're super busy. It's probably going to be about 15, 20 minutes for your drink." I'm calling out an arbitrary number. You don't have to say that. But it's really, really, really awesome to let somebody know, "Hey, go wait outside for 10, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, then come back in, and your drink will be close to ready." That, to me, is one of the coolest things that could and should, and I believe I would love to see happen more in most places I go to. I like to have a general sense of how long it's going to take. And that just happened at Sambazon, at the SI place on Sunday.
Oh, yeah?
We went for SI.
On first?
Yeah. No, sorry, not Sambazon.
Samba Rock.
Yep. S's and Ambas. Yeah, so we went there, and we ordered. We were going to go to Swanton to pick strawberries. And the person, takes our order. It's going to be about 20, 25 minutes. And they're kind of notoriously slower, and that's actually something I thought about when I went in there. I was like, man, the only reason I don't like going there as much is they're so slow.
Yeah.
But as soon as I get told and they own it, my perspective changes. I'd be happy to go to a place that tells you it's going to be about 25 minutes. I'm like, tight. I'm going to go wait out by my car, listen to music, kick it. I'll be back.
Yeah, and maybe then you're deciding, I'm over it. I don't want to wait 30. And that's fair too.
Right.
But the tension is the worst.
Right.
Not knowing, expecting it to come out in 3 minutes and having it take 20 minutes, that sucks.
Right. And that to me is something, all of these things are just nuances of hospitality and care that I think are, if you just think on a human level, if you don't think on a consumerism, maybe capitalistic level, they're actually really easy to think about. And this kind of just, all of what we're talking about a little bit refers or it kind of reverts back to a little bit our conversation about when is somebody going to put out the Michelin star coffee experience or the food experience. And that's not exactly what we're talking about, but at the same time, all of these little details adding up are the things that are going to get people there or more bought into specialty coffee. And so if you want to follow our values, it's actively pursuing better for the entire community of specialty coffee.
You hit on something when you said these things are pretty basic if you think in terms of just, being a human being and outside of business or transactional, which makes me think of the difference between having a customer and having a guest, right? When you have a customer, there's certain things that you need to do because that's the mindset that you're in, that this is a business transaction. When you have a guest, you can treat them how you would treat a guest. Okay, cool. We're on the same level, and I can be honest with you about these things. I want to make sure you feel comfortable. If you came over to my house for dinner, I wouldn't try to pretend that, dinner's not going to be ready for 2 hours. I can just be like, oh yeah, dinner's going to be a couple hours. Right. Oh, what do you need? Oh, cool. What's up? I listen. I don't just talk. I listen. I understand. And I think that's pretty awesome to be able to pair the job that you do with that feeling of I'm actually interacting with another human being, and then having the freedom to see the long game in that interaction. We talked before about cutting off a guest. It's like you're not even really cutting off a guest. You're just you're playing the long game, Think about this. Oh, what'd you do this weekend? Cool, I took my boat out. Cool, what kind of boat do you have? Oh, I have this kind of boat. Okay, cool. How does that work? Oh, cool, it's got this thing, that, and then blah, blah, blah. You have this fucking 5-minute conversation about whatever. Just let it fucking hang. Have mystery. What'd you do this weekend? I took my boat out. Dude, that sounds super fun. I wish I could get out on the water. Right. Boom, 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 finish the transaction. Then you have some stuff in your pocket for the next day. Next time, right?
Hey, what kind of boat do you have?
You just remember. I remember you went out on a boat last week. You've been boating a little bit lately. What do you do out there?
Right, and they're like, they remember.
And then there's levels, right? Then
and you
can
should
take
remember
it all the way
as best you can.
Yeah,
which is why we take names.
Absolutely.
You remember a name, not a drink.
Right.
You're not necessarily unlocking doors because these are the things we've been thinking about. But what we're doing is like hospitality is kind of humanitarianism, where it's like I'm actually picturing like I don't want to call it customer service, but like the transactional capitalism. It's almost like problem solving. It's like this is a solution. Like I think in the tech world, they talk about UX, but they talk user experience, but they talk about it really in the context of like solving problems, making things easier, making money, and making things fast. And it's like boom, boom, boom. Like we're doing all this stuff, and it's not that it doesn't move the world forward, but it is not the same feeling because the whole end goal is to put out a product for somebody to buy that might make them happier. And we're doing two things. We're putting out a product that's awesome, but it's all in the context of the kind of experience that is connective. And so even you can think about social media all you want, where it's trying to be connective, and it does have its place, and it can be amazing for those who don't get to see the world and go out into the world. But at the same time, there is such a different approach.
Well, it's so funny. I feel you. I mean,
it's even for me. It's like I can talk to people and genuinely connect to people in UK, Europe, whereversville, where I'm not, South Africa. Like literally, I have people I connect with that I'm most likely, maybe in our industry, going to see, but most likely not going to see often, if ever. Australia, easy. But then you have a whole different experience, which is exactly what you said. Come into our cafe, our place, where we essentially serve you, pretty straightforward, and people kind of miss that when you are in it and you're serving and you're actually genuinely like altruistically helping in the way, and you're also getting paid for it, which you forget, or maybe you put that first, it ends up being so much more fun and so much more gratifying.
I think there's so many levels because what we're working against in a lot of cases is a really broken system that people have been indoctrinated in for their whole working lives.
I mean, our parents started like big time, right? And then we're actively fighting against it at nearly 40.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But then everybody else who we're hiring and working with is in the same boat.
Right.
So if you've had 3 jobs and then you come to Cat and Cloud, for the most part, I would put good money on the bulk of your work experience is show up, shut up, do the work, do it right, don't make mistakes, or you're going to get in trouble.
Sure.
That's the situation that you're in. And that creates people that are apprehensive. They don't feel like they can connect with other people. They don't feel a lot of freedom. They're sitting there at the register thinking, not how can I help this person or give them a good experience? They're thinking, how can I not get this wrong?
Right.
So they're not actually thinking about the person that they're talking to. They're thinking about themselves and not wanting to blow it. Because every time they've blown it before, they've gotten so much trouble.
Right.
And that's where we talk about, hey, you're going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. And they're totally okay. The thing that you need to do is own them and clarify afterwards. If you know you screwed something up, or even if you just have a gut feeling, you can raise your hand and say, hey, I messed up. I'm pretty sure I did this wrong. I did as much research as I could, but I still couldn't figure out what the right way is. Can you help me figure out the right way? I just want to get better at this. And then we can be like, yes, we will help you. this, that, and the other. And we only have a problem if we have repeat. That's on you as an employee. But creating a culture where people feel comfortable connecting, where it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to separate business from pleasure. Turns out they can both go together. Turns out work is way more fun when you can do a good job at the same time as focusing on the individual that you're helping. Because that's the whole reason your business exists.
That should be. I would hope.
At some level, it is for everybody, whether they want to admit it or not. I mean,
you need somebody to care about it.
What is a job? Give me a job that's not a service job. Give me a job where the person on the other side of the counter doesn't matter. Give me a job where no matter how much you think it's about you and your technical prowess and the thing that you know how to do, it's not about the other person.
No.
It's always about the other person.
It's always about service. No matter what, if you can lean into that, you're going to be a better member of your workplace. That is a gall-darn fact.
That is a fact.
That is a fact.
100%.
Hey, that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening. I know this is the time, the shameless, classic, we need your help, but we do want to get our message out there, and we do want to share this with a lot of people. So if you could share this with others, you could subscribe, you could rate, you could review. It would greatly help us as we continue to push through not only the YouTube as it's fresh, but also the general podcast as we took nearly an entire year off from doing it. And so please do so, share it. I believe that we have some information and some perspectives that could help not only people in the coffee industry, but people in any industry, any walk of life. So do us that favor, do us that solid, bring us that love, and turn up for us, please. And I hope you all have a great time. Thanks for listening.